This is the Impressions Exchange Podcast. Where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Hi, I'm Denise Gustavson, Editorial Director for Printing United Alliance, and the guest host for the special Printing Impressions podcast series in celebration of Women's History Month, highlighting the women in the printing industry. During this series, I'll have the opportunity to talk with women from all segments of the industry about their experiences and their journey as a woman in the printing industry. So today, it's my pleasure to welcome Terry Monday. She's the Chief Strategy Officer with Imagine. So Terry, welcome.
Thank you.
So I guess to get us started can you describe a little bit about what you do as a Chief Strategy Officer and a little bit about your background?
So listen, I have the best job in the world.
The best job.
The best. I have the greatest job. I get up every morning and I think about growth. So the Chief Strategy Officer has come some kind of big fancy title, but really what it means is I think about growth every day, all day long. And I think about growth from a number of different perspectives. I think about how do we help our companies grow, our client companies grow? How do we grow? What did those client companies require of us to grow? How do we grow in our relationship with them? And how do we grow in our place in the market? And to do that, you also get to think about how you grow business partners inside the business, people from those folks that are working on the shop floor to the folks that are project managing and trafficking the work through our business, through to the sales organization and how they're approaching customers and prospects. So I get to think about growth, and that happens both organically and through acquisition. And so for me, there's nothing more fun than to think about how we all get bigger and how we do that in a good, profitable way and consider all of the people that make that happen.
That's a really interesting way to describe your job, I have to say.
It's a big fancy title, but really what it means is that to me.
Yeah. So how did you get started? I mean, obviously you've been at Imagine, you've worked your way to Chief Strategy Officer. What was your path in getting there? I mean, I'm guessing you didn't start originally thinking I'm going to be in print from a young age. No. Or maybe you did.
No, actually, I grew up thinking I was going to be either a lawyer or a teacher. And frankly, the teacher thing was all about having summers off, truthfully.
I don't blame you. It's a good reason.
Yeah. And so the path was kind of a little varied. But actually, how I kind of got into this crazy business was I was working in the technology space and I got a call from a recruiter. And I was introduced to these two crazy smart entrepreneurs who believed that this was where there was a tremendous future and that I had the skill set, which clearly I didn't at the time, to join. And so I did. I was a young mom and I said, okay, I think I can go on this ride. And I have been very blessed that those two crazy entrepreneurs, one of them remains a mentor to this day. And the other one I had a text from just last week. For me, it's all about those relationships and how those relationships help. I'm back to grow. Those relationships helped me enter the business and then have helped me grow in the business. So I've had a number of jobs along the way. Mm-hmm. I ran sales. I sold, I developed business development, I sat on a couple of executive teams, but I gravitated towards the retail large format, to the large format space was really the gravitational pull. Though even at one point I was involved in managing pre-press nationally. Had to learn, first of all, how does that really work? And what is that? And what I discovered was I needed smart business partners. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of that was kind of the roundabout journey.
It's interesting. Everybody gets into this industry in different ways. And it's interesting, you were headhunted into it. I
Mhm.
spoke with somebody else that also was headhunted into it. But then there's other people that literally just stumble into it because they answer they're looking for a job, especially early on. But it is always interesting to hear those paths and how different they can be.
And then there are people that grew up in it, right?
Yes.
Dad had a printing company and then they evolved.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what's one of the fun parts about this industry is that we all traveled a different journey to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And so we bring those skills and experiences with us when we get up and come to work every day.
Yeah, I agree. And I have to agree with you on that, the large format and the signage and the POP, the gravitational pull. I've been in the industry for 25 years, and that has always been such a pull and an interest for me.
Yeah.
Just the creativity, the entrepreneurial spirit of all of those, and the passion that all of those people that I've encountered along the way in that segment of the print industry has just been phenomenal. And it continues.
Yeah, and I think what's kind of fun about it too is that really how fun is it to walk down a street or walk through a store and see all this big stuff that you did, and
Mm-hmm.
then see all that big stuff that you didn't do, and think about how big that market really is.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you take print as a whole, it's ginormous, but people don't think about it that way, especially
Mhm.
especially younger generations. It's print has always just been there. It's been on their cereal packaging. It's been, they don't see it anymore,
Mhm.
which is always just so interesting when when they then get immersed in it. They're just starting out and they realize print is everywhere and they've been
Mhm.
touching it in so many different ways.
And how long have we been hearing things like screen printing is dead?
Mm-hmm.
It's not dead. It's not dead.
Definitely not.
None of it's dead. So you hear about those kinds of things and you say, no, 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 look over here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Through your journey, have there been any specific lessons that your work life has taught you?
Yeah, so what I would tell you is that, historically, as I've been in the business for longer than I care to admit,
I
um,
didn't ask.
I understand, I'm grateful for that. What I would say is that, the business has historically been a male-dominated spot.
Definitely.
And so what I learned was I had to be true to myself. I had to be fearless in some cases, but I had to do it in a way where I didn't lose my sense of curiosity
Mm-hmm.
or my sense of self. And always being true to who I am and kind of what I believe in has been an important part of my journey. The other thing is, I am still, I am a working mom and have been. I started in this business with an infant. Literally, she was less than a year old.
Wow.
And what I will tell you is, I've raised two great kids, and I've discovered that you have to find your own balance. It's not really there. You have to kind of keep your perspective and find your own balance. And while we're in the printing industry and we're creating lots of wonderful tools that help customers sell more of what they sell and build their growth engine, we really have to keep our perspective. We're not curing cancer here. We are not saving lives. We are making beautiful things and we are helping clients grow their business. So you have to ingest it with a little bit of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And those are kind of all of the skills that I get to embody today as a senior leader in the company.
Which is great. And, talking about balance, I think that for women has been so difficult to balance their passions, their hobbies, their family, their career.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things pulling at women, especially. So I mean, you said you found your balance, but how do you find that balance?
Because what I did was I made peace with the fact that it would never exist,
Okay.
frankly.
Yeah.
And balance for me is different every day.
Mm-hmm.
And some days I'm better at it than others. And some days I'm way out of balance. But I think you have to make peace with the fact that it doesn't, at least for me, it never really existed in a way that I could straight line. I had to be okay with the ups and downs of it, no different than our industry. Our business has ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore it requires that we be, not horizontally balanced, but rather we find it for ourselves in the journey, right? And again, keeping the perspective.
Very important to keep that perspective.
And it helps when you have good business partners inside the business.
Mm-hmm.
It helps when you have people that you believe to be smart and that you believe can teach you things and can teach you aspects of the business that you didn't know. And when you have that kind of partnership ongoing, that's how you find, for me, that's how I found different kinds of balance.
Yeah. One of the other women that I spoke to mentioned about allowing yourself to not be perfect, to give yourself grace,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not going to have this horizontal line that this is work, this is home, this is family. That really doesn't exist. And every day, like you said, is a little different. So it's being flexible, allowing yourself to just react and to deal with things as they come.
And to be that way for others inside the business.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of people who are on the same kind of journey you are. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're all in this together.
Now, you've mentioned this on a couple of occasions, the mentors, the
Mm-hmm.
great leaders and partners you've had.
Mm-hmm.
How much has, what lessons have they taught you? How important was it for you to have mentors to help you along your career journey?
So that's a really good question. And as I think about that, what I think about is not one, but many.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that in a way, much like a company thinks about a board of directors. So I've been fortunate to have to build my personal board of directors.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think about it that way, and to say that these are the people that coach and mentor, sometimes protect, sometimes cheerlead, sometimes close the door and set me straight. Those are the people that I have been lucky enough to surround myself with. And some of them have been, there's one that's over 30 years as a mentor. If you're lucky enough, you collect them and you count on their strengths and you use them. And so I like to think about it not as a singular mentor or two. I like to think about it as a rounded board.
Mm-hmm.
And in different parts of your business journey, you need different board members.
Yeah. As you get through different things, different challenges, different looking at different ways to succeed, different projects, you need those different partners, those different boards as you go through that journey. Yeah. It's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, I think about it that way. And I think that I'm lucky enough to have a number of board members.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also lucky enough to sit on a number of other people's boards. And so there's learning in both aspects of that. And to be available and conscious of that, I think has been really important for me.
Mm-hmm. And I always think that when you talk about mentors and the mentees, the best thing is to have an interchange between the two of them because you learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody comes from a different background. Everybody has a different perspective. So there's always a chance to learn something new from anybody that we interact with or touch throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. If you're curious.
Yeah. If you're curious enough and willing.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe even humble enough to ask the questions that you don't know the answer to.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think as I think back to your other question, what have you learned? Ask
Mm-hmm.
a lot of questions. Ask them all the time and ask the same one multiple times.
Yeah.
It's interesting that's an interesting perspective and reflects back, I think, for me.
Mm-hmm. So you've mentioned you're a working mom.
I am.
Now, unfortunately, that sometimes has had a bad connotation in the market, in the workforce as a whole. Doesn't matter if it's just the printing industry. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have those stereotypes. Oh, it's a working mom. She works her mom hours, and you kind of have that, you hear the sound of the tone, or maybe a woman is a little bit more aggressive. And there's some other words that people can use for that. How do you deal with those stereotypes, or how have you dealt with those stereotypes?
So it's interesting that you asked the question that way. words matter.
Mm-hmm.
And some bias is conscious. She's a working mom.
Mm-hmm.
You don't say he's a working dad.
Correct.
People don't say that. And some bias is unconscious. Hey guys. And so I think what's important is to be able to call it out when it's too much, but to do it in a way that is a little bit fearless,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to know, you have to be confident enough to be able to say, can we talk about that a different way? And or to be able to represent that, yeah, I'm a working mom and I'm really proud of that, but that doesn't define me. Lots
Yeah.
of things define me. So I think the important thing is to think about it, to recognize it, and to not be afraid to call it out, and to be sure, because women have unconscious bias against other women too. And so it's important to recognize it's not just men that carry that to work. It's women that carry that to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be careful that your response is not adding to the bias.
Yeah.
But rather cheering for one another, because that's what we ought to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
We ought to be cheering for one another and helping one another.
Sometimes it's easier said than done.
Oh God, yeah. Heaven's sakes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
And it's in some ways, it's to many people, it's a no-brainer. We should support other women. We should encourage. It's not by helping another woman, it's not going to take anything away from us. But sometimes, for whatever reason, women tend to view it as a challenge to whatever authority they may have gotten, or to whatever position they've gotten within a company.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're fighting, it's like they're fighting tooth and nail to keep what they have, but there's no need for that. Everybody can succeed.
Yeah. Blowing out somebody else's candle doesn't make yours shine any brighter.
Yeah.
Thinking about it from that perspective, I think the same way of our competitors in the marketplace. Look, I want all of our competitors to be successful in the marketplace. Truthfully, I do. I just want us to be more successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's the way to think about things.
Yeah. And honestly, in your example of the market, the more people doing phenomenal work, the more interest is brought to it, the more attention is brought to it. And honestly, it's kind of like that whole tides rise all boats, and in some ways, because then everybody ends up doing better, because it's something that becomes top of mind to even more people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know what? And that's how we learn, and that's how we all get better.
Yeah, exactly. You look at somebody, go, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could wrap that building that way.
Yeah.
Oh,
How'd that happen? Tell me what kind of ink is that? How does that work?
Mm-hmm. And then we, of course, then we all become print nerds, and then we look at everything that we see everywhere, which has happened.
Yeah. And we're touching it and feeling it.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, my husband looks at me and goes, what are you doing? Stop touching stuff. So now obviously you're a leader, and have you experienced any resistance when leading men or getting your voice heard? Because as we mentioned, the print industry traditionally has been mainly a male-dominated area and a male-dominated industry. Has that been something that that you've struggled with, or maybe in your case, you've not?
Yeah, I try not to look at it about managing men versus managing women. I think you have to look at everybody. We all have gifts.
Yep.
And we all have areas that we could be better at. I have a very long list personally. So I don't think about it that way. I think about it in terms of how do we get better? Not about how does a man think? I try really hard not to do it that way, because I don't want it done to me that way. The whole working mom thing, right?
Yeah.
I think in the print business, what I would say is one of the things we all have to have is a tremendous amount of persistence. I think often one of my favorite quotes is from Winston Churchill, where he says, never, never, never give up. And that's what's required in this industry. And
no matter who you are.
No matter who you are. And so what we're about is helping people never, never, never give up.
That's a great way to look at it. And yeah, I mean, honestly, you're leading people. Everybody has different experiences, different strengths and weaknesses. You work with each of those on an individual basis, not based on the color of their skin or their gender.
Yeah. And how do we get those voices to the table?
Yeah.
And how do we get them to the table? And then how do we get them to the bigger table and to the bigger table?
Do you have an answer for those?
No. Good gosh, no. But if somebody does, like, come on. I just think it's all of us working together. I am very lucky. I'd imagine over 60% of the executive team is women.
Which is phenomenal. And that's probably a little rare, I think, in the industry.
I believe so. I don't have statistics.
I don't either, so I can't say for sure.
But I believe it to be rare, and I believe it to be a tremendous view for people to have, that regardless of whether you're a mom or a working mom or a person or whoever you are, there is a seat at the table. Mm-hmm. That's what I would say.
What do you think? I mean, you've already mentioned some, having the confidence. What do you think women could be doing better in order to advance their careers? Are there things they should be doing or not doing?
We could all make a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I don't have that answer. I can only speak for me. And so what I would say is, as women, we have an obligation to one another, to cheer each other on, to help each other, to reach in, pull up, and to be sure we are thinking about the business that way and thinking about each other that way. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would say is what we owe one another in terms of how to think about that kind of expansion.
No, I agree. Now, I guess stepping back a little bit and looking at the industry as a whole, what do you wish people knew about the printing industry?
So listen, this is a great place to be. And it's a great place to be because it's a mix of creativity and manufacturing and problem solving and solution generation. It is all of those things wrapped around a market that is expansive and that continues to grow.
Then I guess the question is, why aren't we telling that story better? I don't have the answer to that. So,
well, I guess that's a question for print marketing teams and for all of us to ask, why are we not talking about that more? But if you think about it, there is everything you can find out in the business world existing in this industry. Mm-hmm. And it's robust and it's energizing, and frankly, it's a lot of fun. So I think we ought to figure out how to infuse that into publications like yours, companies like mine, and other companies across the business, no matter what their expertise is. Because there's a great place to be.
And it's kind of like the best kept secret too, which is not good because, like you said, it's a phenomenal industry and there's so much opportunity. There's so many options for people, depending upon, if they're more into finance or if they're more into creativity. There's just so many things that they can do.
Yeah. So I would say out there in the world, be brave, come join us. And if I had done, and if I could run an Imagine commercial, I would say we are actively looking for good, smart, curious people to join us.
That's not a bad way to think about it. And I like that commercial too, by the way.
Thank you.
As we're kind of, wrapping up, if you were to give yourself advice when you were in your 20s, what advice would you give to yourself if you were just entering the printing industry at a young age?
I'm back to ask a lot of questions. Be fearless. You're smarter than you think. And don't be afraid to be confident and walk right in the door.
And just do it.
And never give up.
Terry, it has been a pleasure chatting with you.
It's been fun. Thank you for the questions.
Yeah, no problem. And I'm looking forward to talking with you again at some other point in the future.
That'd be great.
Awesome. Thanks again, Terry.
Thank you, Denise.